Welcome to Up to the Minute. Good to have you with us this Thursday morning, July the 23rd of 2020. We've got your HCC news and information for the next half hour. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Before we get to today's guests, I want to introduce Brittany Pacheco joining me from across town. Good morning, Brittany.
Good morning, Todd, and good morning to everyone joining us on Facebook Live for this morning's Up to the Minute. Before we get into it, be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to find out the latest from HCC. And last but certainly not least, please share this podcast. That way we can grow our audience, but also share all this wonderful information that we're going to delve into. Because, Todd, I'm so excited to have these two very special guests on this morning's show. One of the guests happens to be a former teacher of mine.
Yeah, I know. You guys have got a special connection. We're going to talk more about that in a second because I'm going to bring you into the conversation, Brittany. But first, we're talking about a Houston museum, Houston's own Buffalo Soldiers National Museum. Of course, they're located here in town. And we've got the CEO, Desmond Bertrand-Pitts, on our show. Good morning to you, Desmond.
Good morning, Todd.
Thanks for being here. We're going to be with you in just a second. And right now, a lady that Brittany is very excited for because you two have a connection. Talking about Angela Holder, who's a board member for the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum, but she's also an HCC professor. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's great to have you with us. Brittany, tell everybody the connection between you two and some of your stories that you have together.
Sure. So many moons ago, I won't say how long, I was a student here at HCC, and I was actually coming back to finish my Associates of Arts so I could transfer to the four-year institution I got my bachelor's from, and one of the classes you had to take was history. And so I was very fortunate to take history with Miss Angela Holder, who was a phenomenal professor because our class got to go to the Buffalo Soldiers Museum, which is right across the way from Central Campus. And we got to check out the exhibits. We got to check out a movie that was about the Buffalo Soldiers. And fun fact is, a bonus question from our final exam was, what were the Astros called before they were called the Astros? I knew the answer. I ran out of that classroom like a boss because I just knew it. By the way, it's the Colt 45s. Just saying.
And Angela, how long have you been with HCC? Obviously, you've made an impact on your students. You got one testimony here, but how long have you been with the college?
Okay, I started out in the spring of 1991. I was an adjunct professor from 91 to 96, came back in 2000, got on full time in October of 2010.
And have you always been teaching history? Has that always been your subject, or? And I'm going to ask you that. And then, what has inspired you with history? Have you always been a history buff?
Yes. In Louisiana, we have a lot of superstitions and all. And one of them is that you can mark the child while the child is in the womb. My mother was a social studies teacher in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge, and she taught Louisiana history, and she taught up until about a week before I was born. So if there's that connection, yeah, I was marked early on.
That's incredible. I know another one of your students is on the show because, Desmond, you were saying you taken Angela's class as well, right?
Yeah, I actually took a course, and it was actually during the museum had been open and everything already, so we already knew each other. But I felt the pressure of being the grandson of the founder. Like, I have to really show, that I know my stuff.
Right.
So the pressure was on.
Well, let me ask you both. Let's talk about the museum itself and how long the Buffalo Soldiers Museum has been in Houston. And let's talk a little bit about its history. So let's start with the museum itself. How long has it been around?
Let's see. The museum has been around since January 5th of 2001. And I was teaching at Prairie View when I heard about the museum. Desmond was a young man, teenager at the time. And I saw a picture of him and his little brother in the newspaper that announced the opening of the museum. And I was teaching at Prairie View, and I was sending my students from Prairie View to the museum. Captain Matthews, the founder, is an alum of Prairie View, and I said, introduce yourselves as Prairie View students And I kept sending so many students, and he said, well, who is this professor at Prairie View that's sending these students here? So after the spring semester 2001, I went to the museum, introduced myself to Captain Matthews, and his enthusiasm is infectious. 60% of the collection in the museum comes from him. He's a retired Merck pharmaceutical rep. He was a biology major at Prairie View. He was also a Vietnam veteran. He served as a medic. And while he was an undergraduate at Prairie View, he learned about Buffalo Soldiers, but there was not a lot of information in the books about these men. So his curiosity was so piqued that when he graduated, did his tour in Vietnam and became a Merck pharmaceutical rep, he would collect artifacts, memorabilia connected to these men. His collection grew so extensive that his wife suddenly suggested, you gotta get this stuff out of my house. And so this is where the museum came from. The original building was at 1834 Southmore. It was a building that had an office, an architect firm on the top floor. We were on the bottom floor, and it has grown exponentially. We got support from Mayor Bill White to get the building, and we were able to move in November 2012. If there is such a thing as a perfect marriage, that building is a former armory, and we're a military history museum. And putting the two together was kismet. It was just fantastic. And we've been at the new location since November 2012, but the former location was at 1834 Southmore.
So Desmond, it sounds like these artifacts and this collection was in your family for many years. Do you remember it growing up? And I imagine you were taught about it all throughout your life.
Yeah, I couldn't get enough of hearing the stories about the Buffalo Soldiers. I mean, at that age, I probably could have enough. But now that I am, here professionally, I can't get enough of the stories. Like Angela told about the time my grandmother said, we got to figure out how to get this stuff out the house. And I was there. She said it in so many words that probably that we can't normally say in the news, but with media. But I can remember the collection at the time that the museum opened. It had been 35 years of collecting. So you can just imagine how much stuff, memorabilia, artifacts that he had collected over that time period. And when we moved into the first space, and like Angela said, we were only on the first floor, but we had tons and tons of memorabilia that was in storage at the time. But a few years later, probably a year or two, we moved into the second floor. Then there was a house connected to it. We moved into the house that was connected to the museum. And to fast forward to 2012, we're in 24,000 square feet now here at the Ligor Armory. So it was a very fast track. And we're celebrating 20 years next year.
That's incredible. Congratulations on that. Angela or Desmond, either one of you can answer this, but let's talk about the Buffalo Soldier and the meaning, where the name came from, and what the Buffalo Soldier represents.
Yeah, I did some research last night for you all. The Native Americans had never seen Black men before, and that was a curiosity in and of itself. And to see the texture of the men's hair was compared to an animal that was very sacred to them, in the Plains Nations, the buffalo. And the men's fighting spirit connected with the fighting spirit of the animal, and this is where Captain usually refers to as the wild buffalo. And this is where the Black men came to be referred to as Buffalo Soldiers.
And the wars that the soldiers have fought in go back realistically in all the wars for the United States, correct?
Yes. Captain has always announced that Black men have served from the American Revolution to where we're currently in places now where we have military support. So it's not something new. Not something new.
Why was Houston chosen as the site for the National Museum?
Oh, that's a good question. So there's nothing specific to Houston outside of Captain Matthews being the founder, being the one to say, hey, there's not enough more information about these African American soldiers who are on the vanguard of civilization. But not even that. We're known as the Buffalo Soldier National Museum, but we actually chronicle the entire African American military experience. Most people come and they want to know about the Buffalo Soldiers, but they're surprised to see that we have so much information about the entire African American military experience.
Desmond, I know there was a celebration or monumental occasion that happened on Veterans Day a couple of years ago. Could you tell us about that and the significance of that on November 10th of 2018?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually the grand opening of the entire facility. So we had wrapped up phase 3 of the renovation of the facility. We still have a little more work to do. But that was a monumental occasion at the 100th year of World War II, if I'm not mistaken.
World War I.
World War I.
Yeah.
World War I. And she can kind of expand on the relationship that we have with some of the partners that we have for that event as well.
What was happening at the time? There's a local teacher here, Paul Cherie de Nova, and she came out and said that she was able to connect us to the French veterans of Texas. The Black soldiers in World War I who were stationed in France had a very special relationship with the French. Times being what they were, supplies were very limited, and the Black soldiers shared their rations with the French. And there was this bond that took place where the men were not well received by white people here in America. The French just grabbed them up and really treated them well. So much so that the government here sent a letter to the French government and said, do not treat those men that way because they will not get that treatment when they come home. And unfortunately, the Black soldiers who served for the United States did not march in the victory parade that was held in France. The Black representation came from other Black soldiers who served from other countries in World War I. My grandfather, my mother's dad, was a teenager when he went to France to fight in World War I. He said he upped his age. The youngest that they were taking were 21-year-olds. So he added 3 years on, went to France, made 20 years old in August of 1918. So he was 20 years old, but he started out as a teenager in France. But yes, the soldiers were treated very well by the French. And so this particular celebration acknowledged that bond that the Black soldiers had with the French. We have a commemorative monument. We're one of I think it's 100 facilities that was chosen to host this monument. And the French consulate representative, the British consulate representative came out that day and laid a memorial wreath at that monument that was dedicated to Black servicemen who served.
Let me ask you this, Desmond and Angela. With the COVID crisis hitting the nation and many museums shutting down, sometimes indefinitely, a lot of things have been offered online, giving people a look behind the curtains at the museum, things they normally wouldn't see. Let's talk about your programming online, and has the museum reopened to the public yet? If not, what are your plans?
Yeah, definitely. So we closed down March 16th. We joined pretty much all of the arts and culture organizations, which pretty much shut down on the same day. We had conversations leading up to it. Decided it was best to go ahead and do it before there was an actual, federal shutdown. And we did reopen on Juneteenth. We opened Juneteenth weekend. We were open for 2 weeks, but we shut back down July 2nd. The rise in the cases and it just didn't make sense for us to remain open. So we did close our doors to the public again. The first few weeks were a little difficult. We were trying to figure out how do we transition, the programs that we had, to virtual, because we have one of the great programs that I enjoy is Paint Your History. So it's sort of like a paint with a twist, but our twist is that we have historical content. We don't have any wine or any beer with our Paint Your History, So some people are not excited for that part. But the theme around it is to paint a historical event or figure or that type. So that we tried to transition it to virtual, but it did not work out very well. So we had to let that one go. But we do things sort of like mindfulness and meditation. That's one that had gone really, really well. And I think that that's attributed to the times. People are, in their house in quarantine and trying to figure out how to manage it mentally. So people have really grasped to that program. And she just gives tips and techniques on how to, focus on breathing, something so simple that we think we have a good grasp on. When you take that course, you realize that you really don't. How long can you hold your breath? Those type of little things that you don't think about. So she's helping people with that. Our partner is helping people with that. We're doing a program that we started about a year ago, Fit to Serve, which was like physical activity. It's kind of a play on, getting ready for active duty, that type of thing. So getting people more active and engaged. We've transitioned some of that online, but we've added on mentally fit and financially fit. So we actually just wrapped up a seminar this past weekend on being financially sound during COVID, rebudgeting, things of that sort. People are, talking about like, putting their mortgage off and car notes and all that type of stuff. But she talked about how to actively do that in preparation for, if something else might happen or if another, pandemic happens, God forbid, but hurricanes, anything like that we might deal with. So those are some of the things that we've transitioned to virtual.
I know you also have something coming up on July 28th for National Buffalo Soldier Day. Maybe one of you can tell me about that.
Yes, so National Buffalo Soldier Day, we had not, prior to 2 years ago, we had not done a lot of stuff surrounding National Buffalo Soldier Day. And now that I'm seeing, like, there's a day for everything. There's a National Donut Day, National Pizza Day. So about 3 years ago, I was looking and I was like, we have that day. And I didn't realize that was an actual like federal day. So I brought it to the board. I was like, do you know we have a day? And that's normally around the time that there's a national convention for the 9th and 10th Harts Cavalry. So we started doing events during that time. And 2 years ago, I started a program called Military Inspired Art. It was a partnership with Visit Houston because they had a travel and tourism grant. So we participated in that. And this year, we did not get to do Military Inspired Art because it's a huge event where we invite, the community out to support. And we have those programs that I just talked about are actually on site. And we do a full art show. So we invite artists from all around the country to submit work, and we do an art show. So we transitioned that. The way it was a little strange to try to transition that virtually. So what we're doing now is we put videos together of some of our veterans, myself, Captain Matthews, some of the board, and we're pulling all that together to do a video presentation. But additionally, it's going to be our day of giving. So there's things like the Giving Tuesday, that's national, like that's pretty much a national thing. But I decided that, hey, why not do our own day of giving, especially in this time. Sure. It's really, really needed. So we're doing that on that day as well.
Well, Desmond and Angela, we really appreciate you being here and updating us on the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum, Houston's own, here in the heart of Houston. We appreciate you being here. Desmond, I think it's so cool that you get a chance to be the CEO of this organization that, growing up with your grandfather, starting the museum and carrying on the tradition, that has got to be one of the coolest things I've ever heard. And great luck with the museum. Let us know when y'all are back up, and we'll make sure to give our audience a heads up on that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us today.
We appreciate it. Angela, we're always proud to have on one of our instructors, and we appreciate the work you do with the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum and Houston Community College. You're making an impression on your students. We got one right here.
Thank you. Have a good day, Miss
It's great seeing you.
All right.
Great seeing you.
Bye.
Thank you both for being here today.
No problem.
All right. So, Brittany, very exciting for you there.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I will be a proponent for community college for the rest of my life, just because I had such a great experience with
Yeah.
my time at HCC and had some great instructors, including Angela Holder there. And you know, they go above and beyond than just
Yeah.
teaching. They get involved with their community, and I think it's just fantastic. I mean, I've got other teachers to bring on the show if you guys want to hear some awesome things that they do.
Yeah, you know, I've got a friend in my Facebooks, and I keep in touch with her. She was my ninth and 10th grade history teacher. So we still keep in touch. Very cool to have those impressions that last through a life. You know, we talked about with the Buffalo Soldiers Museum, they've unfortunately closed down again because the cases in the Houston and Harris County area are going up with COVID, and there's a need for COVID testing. HCC has several sites open right now, Brittany. 2 of them you don't need appointments to go to.
That's correct. So those 2 locations that you do not need appointments are both in our southeast area. So the Felix Fraga campus located at 301 North Drennan, and our east side campus, which is 6815 Rustic. Once again, you do not need an appointment to visit one of these 2 sites. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, Todd, tell them about the other locations that do require an appointment.
Yeah, so there's 2 other sites that we have open. One is at the Northeast College and one's at the South Campus. All right. The Northeast College is 555 Community College Drive. They are open, let's see, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mondays through Saturdays. And then the second one is the HCC South Campus at 1990 Airport Boulevard. You may have seen that as you're driving down 288. Those 2 locations, you do require an appointment. In order to set up your appointment, you need to call 512-883-2400. Didn't get that number? No problem. We'll post it in the comment or in the section here in this post, in the social media post for this show. So those 2 sites, once again, open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and you have to call for an appointment. Things are ramping up for the fall, Brittany. Registration's underway. A lot of students are wanting to know, how are we doing things in the fall? Well, there are a few options for our students.
There's 4 options exactly, Todd, and we're calling those our safe learning options for the fall. So the first 2 really are both online. However, you can take an online anytime class, which is basically self-explanatory. You log in whenever is convenient for you to check your lectures, do your classwork, etc. And the other online option is online on a schedule. So this kind of works like your traditional classes, except everything is online. You do have to log in at a specific time in order to be present, if you will. But we also have some options for face-to-face or formally face-to-face classes that are now kind of hybrid.
That's right. Yeah, hybrid. They're calling them Flex Campus. You can sign up for in-person classes. Now, keep in mind, these are going to be much smaller classes, socially distanced. You will have to follow CDC guidelines, wear a mask, and those things. The number of students is very limited. So if you want to take a face-to-face class, keep in mind, smaller classes, less students, so you need to sign up early for that. And the 4th option are lab-based courses. These are critical hands-on, skills-based learning will continue to be offered at this time. But once again, because of CDC guidelines, they're going to be smaller classes, and we may have more of them, but they're going to be smaller. So I think the key here, Brittany, is for all of our students to sign up early. Don't wait to the last minute, because the classes may not be available, especially if you need to complete a lab in person.
Absolutely, Todd. And I know this is not the way that, students want to go about their education, but this is what we have to offer. And I would highly recommend to everyone to take advantage of these opportunities that are coming for your fall semester. Register early, be sure you have that seat secured. And if you do have any questions about what our safe learning options are, you can certainly DM us on any of our social media platforms, but there is a website where you can go to check out more information about the options. It's hccs.edu/collegeyourway. Don't worry, we're going to have that in the post. But once again, registration is open. It's underway. Make sure you lock your classes in today. You can do this by heading over to hccs.edu/now.
You know, Brittany, one thing we want to get across is all of our services are still available virtually. We've got a virtual waiting room or a lobby on our homepage. You can sign up and get your questions answered that way. And from what the Associate Vice Chancellor of Enrollment Services was telling us, they're about to launch a Zoom room. Are we keeping you awake?
Yes, sorry, it's difficult right now.
Yeah, I said.
I'm trying also really hard not to cough. You know, I've been a little under the weather.
I just had to give you a hard time.
I know, but yes, we're going to have a virtual Zoom room for our virtual lobby, which is awesome because I know there's a lot of students and returning students and new students, international students, of course, who have a lot of questions about their situation, what we're doing here at HCC. So I think the fact that they're going to offer these virtual meetings, if you will, just helps with students be able to communicate their questions a little bit better.
Once we get finished with this show, you can hop on over to the virtual coffee break. That's happening over with Janet May, HCC faculty and staff virtual coffee break, 11 a.m. Farrell Prestige, the interim vice chancellor of IT, will be there today. Grab a cup of coffee and join Janet May and her guests to learn how to adapt to the remote work environment and get some answers, get some questions answered. So if you've got some IT questions, you can now get them around 11 a.m. We've also got registration underway, Brittany, for our first virtual convocation. It's for fall 2020. Fall 2020.
It's appropriately entitled, We're All Connected at this point. I mean, let's just face it, that's the only way that we can stay in touch these days because of social distancing and whatnot. So this is open to all of our HCC faculty and staff convocation. Registration link should be in your emails. So be sure to check out your emails. They'll be coming at you frequently, don't get me wrong. But the registration is open now until Monday, August 17th. So make sure you mark this in your calendars. The save the date for convocation is August 21st, 2020. And if you have any other questions or just need information, head over to our website at hccs.edu.
Rec Sports, they've got a couple of things going on, Brittany. I know you're excited about both. One is a virtual walk run. Rec Sports, fun, fit, and free events. Fun, fit, and free, Brittany. Those are
yeah, I got it. I'm just not an avid runner like you are. You know, I did cross country when I was in high school and messed up my knee, and that was the end of it for me.
Well, you can start again because you can walk. You don't have to run. You can walk. Log your activity Friday through Friday, July 24th through 31st. Deadline to submit your walking and/or running is noon Friday, July 31st. Register today for that event by going to our emailing roy.byers, BYERS, at hccs.edu. Subject line, July virtual walk run.
And the other virtual fitness event that we have going on are our boot camps. Now, Todd likes to say that I'm a huge fan of that. No, I am not. But Todd is a fan of Zumba. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's for real.
Zumba on Zoom. I just want to coin the phrase. Never done it. Probably won't.
You should just start one up, Todd, just saying. But our virtual fitness classes that are our boot camps happen every Tuesday and Thursday. So it's happening today at noon until 12:40. Current students, faculty, and staff, our entire HCC family, let's face it, who all have HCCS emails are welcome to register. You can register today by emailing christian.andrews@hccs.edu with the subject line, Virtual Fitness Summer 2020. Todd, are we losing you over there?
Well, Peter Frampton's chewing on something. I don't know what he's got a hold of, and I was just hoping it wasn't a cord or something. He's, the dog's like 13, and he's chewing on something.
Oh.
So anyway, I'll have to check that out in a little while. But tomorrow we got a great show lined up for you. You didn't go over this, did you? Because I was busy with Peter Frampton. Okay,
nope,
Dr. Philip Nicotera. Okay, Dr. Philip Nicotera, president of HCC Coleman College for Health Sciences. We love having Dr. Nicotera on the show. He's going to be here to update on the Center of Excellence there and what's happening with them in the fall. We'll have him on the show. And it's Friday, which means Dr. Jimmy Adams returns. He's our resident poet, and he's got a new poem called Living in the Future. That'll be here tomorrow as well. So that's always fun to have Dr. Adams on the show.
That definitely will be. I totally agree. So we thank everyone who has taken their time out of this morning to join us for Up to the Minute. Once again, be sure to like us on all of our social media platforms, and don't forget about YouTube.
That's right. Thanks for being here this morning. I'm Todd Duplantis. You're Up to the Minute. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m.